I don't know if you ever knew. Almost that. Oh. Good catch, huh? We've had kind of a whole team effort here. I don't know if you ever had 4 guys legitimately helping you, but
that's pretty rare.
I'm sorry this is fighting is so bad, but man, you had a heck of a good catch, and our safety chain did what it's supposed to.
Wow.
Didn't see that coming. I knew there was some force there, but didn't see that one coming. All right, so we're talking here about our 30-20 project. And our 30-20 project, this is so bittersweet. We bought the tractor back, I believe, in 16 or 17, and we didn't even get an hour of runtime on it, and the injection pump went out. Like literally, my brother-in-law drove it down the driveway, and it just died. And I called Larry, and he's like, take the little cover off the injection pump and see if the shaft turns freely. I think I took the cover off, and you could see that the shaft was snapped on the injection pump. When you talk to the guy that rebuilt the injection pump, he's like, yeah, this thing's full of rust, your tank's full of rust. He's like, yeah, put a new tank on it. So we actually put new poly tank on it, which is cool, so that problem went away. So we got poly tank for 4 or 500. We have injection pump for I think 750, 750, 850 right in there. And then we also, hey, let's do the injectors. We did the injectors, but then we also moved it over to a square filter. And then we took the tractor from 12 volt to 24 volt. And then we also wired up a whole bunch of lights, flashers, etc. because we live really close to the metro area. I used this thing a bunch. I think when you first started hanging around, you'd see me plow snow with it.
Yeah. I'd plow snow with it.
Yeah. No, it got used back then. It wasn't. You could take a look at the calendar date. It was 2020 when this thing quit being used, and that was when we got the cat skid loader. Because then all of a sudden it was like, well, do you want to plow snow with an open station, or do you just want to use the cat skid loader? Personally, I like both because I love old stuff. But the thing with the cat skid is it was just fast, right? Like
a day like today's.
Yeah, it was good up to about 15 degrees, and then believe you wanted a cab. We always thought it'd be cool to go with the old-fashioned heat houser, and then these last couple years, what really sucked is it sat next to the shop. So what was great with it when we first bought it, it was like one size bigger loader than the 90XT. And so a lot of times we'd use the loader with a set of forks. We actually put the quick attach off a skid loader on there, and so we could use all our forks, our skid loader buckets, etc. So it was really nice that way because you had a little more reach for the booms. The boom had a little more reach, and then you could use all the skid loader attachments, so it was super handy that way. But then when we got the cat skid loader, that kind of filled that void. And then what's really funny, because I'll drive anything, but when I watch my dad, when I watch the other guys just grab the cat skid, I can't really blame them. All right, so if you see my dad there, he can't sit still. He is plowing a path to the shop so he can get in the shop. You know, very nice machine, very expensive machine. But this was kind of always our intermediate loader between skid loader and 938, 950 loader. We definitely overkilled some stuff. Like, just grab a 950, you know it's gonna lift it. So it's really bittersweet as we're working on it, as we're cleaning it up. It's really bittersweet. Luckily, the one kind of neat thing, my ultimate goal with this tractor was to see it go to a farmer that was actually gonna use it for either baling or cattle or something like that. We have a local neighbor that's gonna buy it, and so it's kind of neat. It's gonna stay in the same township, but then when you know you have a friend / neighbor that's gonna buy something of yours, you actually wanna make sure it's pretty decent. We've actually been pricing a number of lines. If you notice, we got the cylinders off it right now. Martin's on the other side of the tractor right now, rebuilding the cylinders. We're kind of doing some other just miscellaneous cleanup stuff. So my dad's been working on it, Ben's been working on it, me and you've done a little bit on it. Martin, we just feel bad for him because he's gotten his butt kicked on it. So step one, we get the cylinders off, we throw them on the bench, and Martin starts tearing into them. And what you really want to do is actually, when you're doing this, is on all these cylinders, sometimes they bolt together, sometimes they have snap rings that hold them together, and different functions like that. This one actually had the snap rings, so we started taking the snap rings out. We got the actual ram out of the cylinder. We got everything tore apart, and then that allowed us to actually dismantle the seal packs, is what they call it. And Martin started ordering up the seal packs.
So is that when they're leaking, is that what you're assuming is wrong? Is that the seals have gone out on it, or are there other things that could be causing it?
So actually, when a cylinder leaks, it could be a lot of things.
Okay.
Most of the time, the most common thing is just the seals have gotten old.
Especially when it's been sitting like it had been.
Yeah, and actually some of it's just wear, you know.
Sure.
The seal's always encased in oil, so actually it always kind of has like, you know, a lubricant, and but they do just kind of get old when they're talking about 50 plus years.
And were both sides leaking?
So there's 4 cylinders on it.
Okay.
3 out of the 4 were leaking, and then we decided, let's just do the 4th. Just a couple days go by, Martin orders all the seals, but then we ran into an issue when we got the seals and we started putting it together. Martin shows up and he's like, this will go together pretty smoothly. And immediately I'm like, okay, we'll just go with the flow, right? And then I look over and he's hitting things with hammers and just like, it doesn't really want to go. And then we eventually actually tipped the cylinder up and pushed down on it with the skid loader. And that was the red flag to Martin that something was not quite right. So then we yank it back apart, and then poor Martin found out that he had ordered the wrong seals. It's always one of those things, man. And, some of these projects start off simple, and then before you know it, they turn into a heck of a science project. We're at that point right now.
Seems to be loosening up.
Yeah,
We want our safety chain back.
I think we do. We've made it into our 40s with all our fingers and toes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever do.
I'm with that.
All right. I guess I should put the phone down and help. But real quick, hey, this one went a lot better, didn't it?
Yeah.
God, now I feel bad. Thanks, guys. I'll just walk away now. Good job. Good job. You got it part. That's awesome. Thanks. The trade-off. We get to talk a little bit about, hey, how do you do this? What's the right way to do it? We can go down the different avenues of, if you're going to redo a bunch of them, cool. Maybe it's beneficial to order the seals individually.
Yeah.
If you're just working on your own loader and you just want to rebuild the cylinders, hey, maybe just go to John Deere and order them. Yeah.
Live and learn though, right? I mean, these are just the things you learn over years and years.
Well, we're gonna start putting the seals in the heads. First one is the rod seal.
You're not going to acknowledge the fact that you got your butt kicked for a day? We feel bad for you.
Yeah.
We feel really bad for you.
Well, it was, yeah, it did get a good butt kicking there. I either mismeasured or didn't write stuff down right, and I bought a seal just slightly too big, and well, rubber compresses, but not as much as it needed to with that.
So that's actually kind of a neat little seal tool there. Where'd you find that seal tool?
I got this from Hercules.
Okay.
I think there's a number of places that sell
Yep,
them. They're
I've seen
pretty-
some stuff like that on Amazon. It's kind of neat. I've done it the old-fashioned way, where you're trying to do it with screwdrivers.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna do seal after seal, that makes it really easy.
Oh, yeah, especially if you're doing it on the clock too, where you're trying to be mindful of keeping the cost down for the customer. Because you can get these in by hand or like Eric said, with a screwdriver. The downside to using a screwdriver is you can risk nicking it if it's a sharp one. You kind of want the most worn out one you can find.
Or whatever's just in the service truck that day, right?
Yeah. or like this one, take it to the grinder and make it kind of resemble a mini tire spoon.
That's actually what a lot of my screwdrivers look like, because I use them as pry bars.
Yeah, so these save some time, and then if you're doing it, as a business, you want to be mindful of your keeping the cost down for your customer.
Okay, so what do you actually call this? This was the end piece that goes right here, correct?
Yep, this would be called, it's called a couple things, either a head or a gland. And then we're just putting the seals on here that'll seal between the gland and the barrel. O-ring here, and if you're doing this at home, don't go to the hardware store and buy the kit of O-rings, because those are generally too soft. They're a 70 durometer, where hydraulics really requires the 90 durometer ones.
Okay, so the first O-ring you put on there, was that just an O-ring?
Yep, that was an O-ring, so that'd be the O-ring. And then the second band I'm putting in is called a backing ring.
Okay.
And then what that does is it prevents the O-ring from the pressure from extruding the O-ring out, because it can actually force the O-ring through the gap between the barrel and.
Gotcha. So it's gonna look like that, O-ring, and then flat washer, flat seal.
Yep.
What'd you call it?
A backing ring.
The backing ring. So washer and then backing ring.
Yep. So you always want the O-ring closest to where the pressure is, and the backing ring behind it. Next is the wiper seal.
Now, Can you, on that one, can you actually see the spring?
This particular one doesn't have a spring in it.
Okay, so how do you know which direction to put it in? I know that sounds stupid, but this is actually one of those things you will sit and think about.
Yeah, so this would be the side that goes out, and the way you can tell is this is kind of at a little bit of an angle. So if you had it upside down, it's going to funnel the dirt in, and it won't be effective. But if you have it the other way, it's just like a oil seal on a gearbox. You want that lip pointing out.
Perfect.
Or pointing toward the dirty side.
This side here would be pointed out.
Yes.
Towards the cylinder. Gotcha.
Yeah, and this holds no pressure. This just cleans the rod off before it gets pulled back into the cylinder.
Gotcha. And there you're just using a washer to drive it in?
Yeah. It just like any other seal, you don't want to just start. You want it to go in as evenly as possible. And this particular one is a press fit in. It's got a metal casing on it. There's other types that will actually snap into a groove, and those are actually a little quicker and easier to install. But
you just tap that in with a hammer, so it's just flushed out.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep, and that first seal I put in on the inside, that's called a U seal, and then that's the one that holds back the pressure between the rod and the head, or
Gotcha.
the rod and the gland.
All right, so next up.
Okay, we're gonna put the head onto the rod, and this has all been greased up, and lubrication's pretty important at this step. And you just kind of work it on and take your time. Now this one's going on a little tougher, so we're gonna persuade it a little, but.
And you just got an old bearing race there?
Yep, it's an old bearing race, and we're gonna be pretty gentle with it, because if we just hammer it in hard, it's gonna tear the seal.
Gotcha. Once you get the head actually on the cylinder, then it actually moves pretty freely, but don't be surprised if you got to use a little force to tap them on.
Yeah, because the U seal on the inside, it's got if you look at a cross section of it, they're kind of split like that. And this particular one is what they call a loaded U seal, and it has an O-ring to help push those two sides out. And then usually those are a little more difficult to get started. So this is the piston. This one's a little bit different than most cylinders because it uses packing instead of either O-rings or a piston seal. But with the packing, we got the bottom ring here.
So that's actually kind of like tapered up. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. And then that one's gonna sit in it?
Yep, and these are all V-shape, like a hollow V-shape. And then
and that just sits down in there.
Yep, there'll be a stack of these. And they just nest together. And then as the pressure increases, just like with the U seals, it gets into that V and it kind of forces it apart, or forces it between the piston and the barrel wall.
Gotcha.
And then that's how it forms the seal.
Gotcha.
It actually uses the pressure the more pressure you put on it, the harder it seals.
And these have 4 of those or 5?
We've got three middle rings and then a top and a bottom ring.
Okay.
And these, I 4 rings and then like this top one is V-shaped on one side, flat on the other. And then the bottom ring is just the opposite. It'd be a concave V and then flat on the side that goes against the flange of the piston.
Okay.
And that just goes on here. And we have the V's facing down on this particular one because the loader is gonna have the most load on it when it's raising the bucket. And so we're gonna point the V's so that it's in favor of that, because it usually doesn't take a whole lot of pressure to lower one. So
Okay.
This is just an O-ring to prevent oil from bypassing between the inside diameter of the piston and the stem of the rod. And this one is just a wear ring, and this metal piece that it's just a hard plastic ring. That,
Okay, it actually sounded like metal.
Yep. Some of them are metal.
Okay.
This one is.
And it just snaps on there?
Yep, it just snaps on.
Perfect.
And it just prevents the piston from coming in the metal part of the piston from coming in contact with the barrel.
Okay, last thing to go on?
Just a lock nut to hold it all together.
And you went with new lock nuts, which is actually probably smart.
Yes.
You don't want that coming off.
Yeah, because this is probably a 50-year-old loader.
Yeah,
and
probably.
The original one was a nylon lock nut, and you've had a piece of nylon soaking in oil for 50 years. It's
Time to update.
time to update, and these type of lock nuts are considered single use, so technically they should be replaced every time they're taken off.
Okay. Any specific torque spec on that, or just good and tight?
If you probably look up what a bolt torque would be for that size
If you want to go
thread,
there. When you impact them, have you ever had one come loose?
No, I never have, but if
Bury the 3/4 inch impact on it.
yeah, if it's something really critical, you probably want to get the torque wrench out for it. Yeah,
Bury the 3/4 inch impact on it.
yeah.
Or the
And-
impact you borrow from your neighbor.
And that size of lock nut is not going to come off easily.
Gotcha. And just general grease.
Yep, this is just regular lithium grease, and oil works too. I think some guys use Vaseline. It's I guess whatever you got available to you, just something to give it a little lubrication. Helps the seals slide in without tearing.
It is one of those things you can get in a lot of debates on what you should use.
Yeah.
I've always used grease, but I know I've had guys tell me, no, it plugs your oil filters, and I'm like, who cares? Oil filters are cheap. You know, like, I've had that debate with so many people. I mean, hey, whatever works, right? Just don't put them in dry. The number one lesson, don't put them in dry. Don't put them in dry.
Yeah, the teaspoon of grease that we used on this thing is probably not going to plug up a filter.
Yeah, I've just, I don't know. I've usually, like, you see a rebuild in a rear end, and I've had it where it's like, you can see, like, okay, there's some grease residue in this filter, but whatever, greater good, you know.
Yeah,
Just,
I mean, we wouldn't want just gobs and gobs of it where it's, where you got a big lump of grease inside with the hydraulic oil. It probably wouldn't be the best situation, but. It's just a ring compressor, and it's, I'd say it's probably kind of like banding, but it's like a spring steel band, and then another smaller band that winds up. And the reason we're using that is just to kind of hold the edges of that packing in, so when we slide it in, it doesn't catch on anything on the way in. Tear the seal, then the seal could potentially fail. All right, well, we're putting the head in here now, and then like before, like we did when we put the rod through, we're going to be careful so we don't tear our seals. On these ones, we're going to have to drive it in a ways because we got to put a retainer ring in there. So this is a retainer ring. This is what holds back all the pressure from the cylinder. And then there's a groove in there that this will snap into. And these are as awkward as they look. I think I got her. Okay, next step is we gotta pull the head back out. And so we're just gonna pull the rod back and then the piston will push the head up. I don't know what's going on. So what's happening here is the head is blocking this air port, and so it's acting like an air compressor right now, and I can't get the head pulled up, so we're gonna use air pressure to push it through.
Oh, there you got it. You want any air? Or are you good?
Nope, that should be good.
See, I scared it.
This snap ring here just prevents the head from sliding back in. This is gonna be an ouchie. A little more. Try again.
All right, so you can see the guys that are working on that. I really feel bad for Martin because he went from getting his butt kicked on a fuel tank to now getting his butt kicked on 30, 20, 148 loader cylinders. But do you think this is better or worse than the fuel tank?
Better.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. It is really cold outside, and I'm going out to a service truck to grab some tools, which that's pretty common. It's kind of funny. The shop kind of has one set of tools, but the service trucks have kind of another. So we'll see if these snap ring pliers will work. Yeah, we just need a little bigger jaws. But overall, it's going good. I just feel bad for Martin because he's just getting his butt kicked on this project. But we'll see if this doesn't make it better. Here we go. All right, so we're back working on our cylinders. It's a night later, and if you see the pliers that Martin is using right now, we had to call in a favor to a friend, and he's letting us borrow those. And if these work good, I actually bought a pair last night on eBay. All right, I'm gonna put the camera down, and I'm gonna see if I can't help Martin because I feel bad. That looked like it really hurt. Are you holding back choice words right now?
Not really, just kind of beyond the point of anger.
Gotcha. Wow.
So close. Try again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Martin, just kind of hold it there. All right.
Keep
tap that.
this side.
Right up there, yep. Going.
Yeah, let's tap that side in.
Oh, look at that. Thanks, Charlie, for dropping these off. The trade-off, we get to talk a little bit about, hey, how do you do this? What's the right way to do it? What, we go down the different avenues of If you're going to redo a bunch of them, cool. Maybe it's beneficial to order the seals individually.
Yeah.
If you're just working on your own loader and you just want to rebuild the cylinders, hey, maybe just go to John Deere and order them. Yeah.
Live and learn though, right? I mean, these are just the things you learn over years and years of doing it, right?
Well, and the worst is because Mechanic Larry even says the same thing. He's like, all the weird stuff happens here. Martin's like, I've never.
That validating to you? Because you're just like, it felt like it, but I don't know.
I've just accepted the fact that there's just kind of some days a little different energy around, and you just go with it. You go with it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just funny because we've had. I mean, the amount of times I've heard guys working in the shop just go, I've never had this happen, and it's like.
Oh, okay.
Know where you're at?
That's really funny. Yep.
All right. Well, you have not tackled an easy project in this shop at all, have you?
No.
Have I told you thank you for being a friend lately?
That's no problem.
There is times in this process that I just felt bad for you. I mean, the cylinders came out of the loader actually pretty easy. Like I was kind of worried about trying to get some of those pins out, but the pins actually came out easy.
Yeah.
But then that's about the end of the easy, isn't it? From then on, from the time we put it up on the bench, it's just nothing went as smoothly as it should have.
Yeah, and the biggest problem was my own mistake. Is I ordered the seals just a little too long.
Wait a minute, you're being a guy, and you're in a shop, and you're actually going to admit it might be your fault? You can't do that. There's a woman right over there. No. Dawn's laughing right now. We had to throw it in there, right? You're in a safe space. We're in our 40s. We don't got to impress anyone, right?
Nobody would care if we did.
Okay, so even though you measured everything, you went aftermarket on the seals, and the seals just didn't. Whether you ordered them wrong or I just blame it on them. Like maybe they just didn't show up the right dimensions.
Well, they were the length of the seals were supposed to be 13/16 long, and I ordered 7/8 because somehow I had 7/8 in my head. And even though I wrote it down, I didn't look at my notes when I ordered them. And so with that 1/16 of an inch too short of a seal, when they were tightened up, it made them swell. And then which increased the diameter, and it's probably something I should have caught, but right away. But for some reason I didn't.
So that's why you ended up hitting them harder with hammers than you ever thought, and why we ended up bringing the skid loader and trying to push them down.
Yeah, all the things I knew that were should have been a big red flag.
Yeah, well, kind of just happens. John Deere 148 loader, pretty common. I mean, this combination was on 3020s, 4020s, etc. There's a number of them around. I was actually surprised. You've actually done some of these cylinders before.
Yep.
Now that big snap ring that we had a hard time. Were these just extra kind of feisty, or I mean, I know they're always stubborn. We actually ordered a new pliers. A friend of ours borrowed one from work, which worked out really, really well. And then we took that part number and then bought a used set too, just so we had them. I mean, have you ever had that outer snap ring fight you that bad?
Yeah, some of those bigger ones can be pretty tough. I think the pliers we were using during disassembly were just a little too small, and I think we, a couple of the rings got a little tweaked, and so then they got squirrely after that when we tried to put them back on.
No, I get it. And so it's the downside when you aren't necessarily the professional. Like a lot of times we'll reference Farmer Bob. Farmer Bob's going to do this. Use whatever means possible to get those snap rings on or off. We were using a multiple different player kind of configurations, multiple people. And so, if you're only doing one or two, use whatever you got to use to get them on and take them off. But if you would think you're going to be doing more in the future, don't be afraid of taking a trip down eBay and seeing what's out there. The reason I wanted to buy those, I just know we're going to be doing other ones in the future.
Yeah. Luckily, nobody's wearing an eye patch or that needs stitches. So.
Well, we like having the basic PPE around here. So real quick, for the Farmer Bobs of the world that are going to just try and attempt this on their own, what advice do you got for them before they even tackle this?
Do some research. There's there's enormous amount of information out there on you know, like YouTube or other platforms.
Hats off to the younger generation. We can hear them ripping around. It sounds like 6 cylinders and a turbocharger. Yeah. So a lot of farm loaders, for the most part, when you look at the barrels and the Rams, the big shiny cylinder, it's not uncommon to see some of the chroming just not as good in the center of the stick. That's kind of normal wear, but most of the time when you fight this, if you just take some like 1000 grit sandpaper and either polish it up, or what do you use to actually like just kind of sand down any rough spots?
What I was using on these ones was a hone stone, and taking down the high spots. There's a limit to how much damage there can be on the chrome, because if it starts flaking off, and then the chrome is rather hard, so it's almost like a knife edge cutting through your seals. And so with a solid stone, you can feel when there's a high spot.
And most of the time that stuff's pretty self-explanatory. Like you're gonna know if you got a trouble spot.
Yeah.
And so if you take it apart and you got a trouble spot, what do? You just buy a new one, or do you take it to a more of a pro shop and let them do it, or?
Yeah, when the chrome gets bad on a cylinder, you can either start over with a new rod, which is usually the most economical way. Sometimes you have a machine shop make one for you, or else you can get them OEM, but they're usually quite expensive that way.
Yeah, all the good stuff is.
Yeah, but if you're lucky enough to know where there's somebody who does do chrome work, they can be strip the old chrome off and have them re-chromed.
Okay, so here's my new question for you.
Oh my.
What do you do with that? Oh, we got a new problem. And
These tractor hoods kind of give you a difficult time, it seems like.
The downside is just there's no in between. Like it's full-fledged. You either do it or you don't do it. All right, so what we have going on here, where we're kind of at right now, and what we don't quite know is where do we go from here? And what I mean by that is we got the cylinders back on, we got everything running and driving the way we wanted to. The one thing the new owner wanted was the hood welded up, because like every good loader tractor of this era, there was some dents, there was some cracks. Dad's got a lot of hours in.
Really?
Welding it, sanding it down, cleaning it up, but he actually did a really good job getting the shape back in it.
Yeah,
which that's
he's
important.
really good at that
and
stuff
he loves
with
it.
welding.
Yeah, that's one of his favorite things to do.
Yep.
With metal fab. But now you see shiny metal and old faded paint. So what we don't know is, okay, do I try tinting the paint down and trying to match it and blend it? It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Or do we just go full-fledged and just repaint it? But the problem is if you repaint the hood, you know where it's going, right?
Yeah, no, it's kind of what you ran into with 50/20 too, of like, where's the line? Where's the stuff?
Yeah, how much time do you put in a tractor that you sell?
All right, so do you have any, so do you have any ideas? How would you cover up the new welding, keep the original patina? Are there any options to get the best of both worlds?
Yeah, I'm open. Mom and Dad are actually on vacation this week, and so now they're coming back, and I know this is gonna be the final thing, is wrap this up. We still got a few things to do. We gotta put the exhaust on, air cleaner on, but it also ties into, like, what do we go do with the paint?
Yeah.
Do we end up going to fall in and repaint it, or do we end up just doctoring it up?
Yeah.
Curious to see your feedback.
I mean, you can now have paint matched. Do you think you could get it?
What happens when you look at, if you turn around and
But
you
it's
just look
pretty
at
flat,
the
too.
hood, what happens is like nothing fades perfectly the same. So actually on the sides typically tends to be a little darker color than on the top.
Yeah.
And then mixing paint still the same cost as new paint. Usually you can take new paint and tint it down, either add some whites or some yellows and kind of calm it down.
Okay.
And you can
Would you kind of go over the whole hood
That's
to
what
blend it, or?
That's what I don't quite know yet. So we'll find out.
All right. Hopefully you have a really good idea, and you'll share it below.
Oh, this is another one of those projects that I didn't think was going to get this labor intensive, but it did. Yes, it did.
Only here, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, the end result's going to be kind of fun. You know, you want
that'll
to. We put so much work into it up to this point that you know what? What's a few more
Finish
hours, right?
strong. What's a few more 40 hours?
Well, you know, he's single guy, no kids. Yeah, we're good.